Hi, and welcome to the Thanksgiving week edition of the podcast. Todd Milewski and Nicole Haase here from USCHO.com. Nicole, this has been a really interesting first couple months of the season. We're starting to see some things move into positions where we're able to tell a little bit more about what the NPI means, what conference standings mean, have some real secure leaders in a couple of the conferences, but there are occasional sweeps that really capture your attention. And one of those for me last week was Minnesota State with a home and home sweep of Minnesota, number 2 ranked Minnesota, the Mavericks' first sweep of the Gophers since 2006. I guess just your thoughts on that in terms of, I guess, what that means in the big picture.
I think that's a really rough for the Gophers in terms of their fight with Wisconsin and Ohio State at the top of the conference. Obviously, there's plenty of time left to see for those two teams to also take hits, but that's a lot of drop points and just a big blow in terms of like if these are all teams that are going to have a minimal amount of losses all season. Those are two that nobody was counting on for the Gophers. I imagine it's going to be a very interesting couple weeks in their locker room because those weren't flukes. Those weren't stolen wins. Minnesota State outplayed and just went out and executed their game plan pretty much perfectly. It's the only time they've ever beaten the beaten the Gophers by more than one goal. They had actually in that second game just had full control. Like they went up and it kind of seemed like there was no doubt to me that they were going to win that second game, particularly the more it went on. And so, yeah, I think that raises a lot of question for the Gophers. I don't think it's, by any means, a death knell for them in terms of anything. I just think it's, we've got some things to look at and some work to do. But I do think that if it comes down to some slim margins at the top of the conference at the end of the season or even in NPI, that's the weekend the Gophers are going to lament.
Absolutely. 3-1 it was for the Mavericks on Friday at Ritter. The Mavericks took the lead with 3:20 left in regulation on an Ava Guillemette goal.
Brilliant goal.
Mercury Bischoff, whose name you'll hear again in a minute, a goal and 2 assists. And then it moved back to Mankato on Saturday for a 4-1 win for Mankato. Like you said, not really in a lot of question there toward the end, thanks to a hat trick from that Mercury Bischoff. A name we're going to hear a lot because I love the name. So I'm just going to keep mentioning it anytime she does anything. And a shout out to Haley Hansen for
at all points. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Shout out to Haley Hansen for a couple of great games in goal for the Mavericks there and a deserved climb up the standings into 5th in the WCHA, which is, as we know, not a bad place to be. Other than having, if that's where you finish up, you have to go on the road still in the first round of the playoffs. But I think 5th place is a pretty respectable position when you talk about the WCHA, considering who the top 4 are.
For sure. And I think it's the place that all the other teams, the not top 4 teams want to be. And honestly, it's not where we thought Mankato would be, right? We've been talking about St. Cloud State sort of as that 5th team presumptive for a little while now. And so kudos to Mankato for sort of believing in themselves. I thought it was really interesting. Sherry Dickerman, after the games, their coach at Mankato was kind of like, no, I wasn't surprised. No, this isn't a big shock. I mean, like you could hear her team, sort of screaming in the locker room in the background, but she's like, this is what we're capable of. This is what we believed in. This is like, we knew this was possible. And so her players bought in on that too. Right. And that's the biggest thing. But yeah, it's a huge outcome for Mankato. I think to build on, to sort of announce themselves as like, hey, St. Cloud is not the presumptive 5th team. And just, yeah, really, I think just shows some massive growth in that program. Sherry's been there a couple of seasons now, really putting her imprint on it. And those are the sorts of things that you have to do in a program in that position is just keep getting those sort of markers that are going to draw the attention and help you bring in recruits and all the little things that have to build together.
Absolutely. Let's take a quick spin around the rest of the WCHA from last weekend. I mean, there were interesting results in all 4 series last weekend. Ohio State getting a sweep at number 5 Minnesota Duluth. The Buckeyes were number 3. They've moved up to number 2 after Minnesota moved down in this week's rankings. 3-1 on Friday behind 2 goals from Joy Dunn. And Joy Dunn then had a goal and 2 assists on Saturday in a 4-1 win. In that Friday game, Ev Gascon stopped 50 shots for Duluth and just didn't get the goal support, which I feel like is a refrain we've heard before, that especially against Ohio State. I mean, they've had some decent results there, but Ev Gascon is keeping them in it a lot of times, and it just doesn't work out on the goals end for them.
Yeah, and shout out to Ohio State, because I think, this is a better UMD offense sort of top to bottom than we've seen in the past few years, in my opinion. At least it's a team capable of scoring goals, that is scoring goals regularly, and they were still held in check. So, again, Ev can only do so much, but I think it says a lot that even with sort of this more prolific offense, with what UMD can do offensively this year, that Ohio State was still really able to hold on to the puck as long as they were, get that many shots on goal, and really keep UMD from doing much on the other end of the ice.
Number 1 Wisconsin got a sweep of number 15 St. Thomas, but that was an interesting finish to the series, and not so interesting on Thursday. 8-0 for the Badgers, but then Friday, the Badgers fall behind, come back to take a 2-1 lead. Then Tegan Kuhlenkamp and Riley Bartz score goals in the third to give St. Thomas the lead with 6:53 left. The Badgers have to go to an extra attacker, get a goal, redirection goal from Kirsten Sims after with about 90 seconds left. And then it looks like the Badgers have a winner at the end of regulation on a buzzer beater, and Kirsten Sims throws the puck at the net from the goal line extended to the left. It goes in off the goalie. There's a celebration. It's right at the horn. It's hard to tell from the naked eye whether it was in time. Everyone goes over to the video replay, and we see that the horn did sound. The clock reached 0, but with the puck still out of the net. So probably 0.3 or 0.4 off from making that a regulation win for the Badgers. But Cassie Hall did score in overtime for Wisconsin to get 5 points out of that series. That the shots attempted in that second game, 94-28 for Wisconsin, and they almost still lost, is kind of amazing, and kind of one of those
the throwback Badger game.
It was very, very much so. And if you're St. Thomas there, you're that close to getting what would have been just a remarkable win, from having lost 8-0 one night to coming back and leading the Badgers into the last 2 minutes at Laban on the second night of a series.
Absolutely. This is kind of what I've been saying week in and week out. Like, how does a team go from losing 8-0 to almost upsetting the top team in the country? Like, the dichotomy of the series that we're seeing is just like kind of blowing my mind. And I really truly feel like I have no idea what's going to happen from day to day. But we have talked in weeks past about sort of the transition game for St. Thomas and how they've been able to use their speed. And that's what we saw from them on Saturday. Like, those 2 third period goals had everything to do with them breaking out and like taking advantage and finding that open ice, basically. And I don't know if the Badgers were just complacent about it after the 8-0 win, or some of it was preying on some of the less experienced defenders. But it was exactly what St. Thomas has done to teams all season, and they weren't able to put it together on Friday. And on Saturday, they found a lot of open ice, and those breakaways, they made them count. And those, people who haven't been around a ton, when I say that's a throwback Badger game, there was, what are we talking, mid-2010s, when there'd be triple digit Badger shot attempts, and they'd score 1 or 2 goals. Like, they just went everywhere but in the net, and very talented. Like, we're talking teams we're full of players that are still Olympians on both USA and Canada. But you would just watch Emily Clark and Sarah Nurse and some of those players, and the Badgers would end up with like 100 shot attempts and 2 goals. That's how that kind of felt, that game. We haven't seen that from them in a while.
No, that's very true. Fun one in Bemidji on Saturday, where Bemidji State led St. Cloud 4-1 going into the third, but then the Huskies reel off 4 in a row. Sydney Lamb, Peyton Holloway, Grace Wolf, Laura Zimmerman to give St. Cloud a lead with 4.5 minutes left. ECAC gets a goal back for Bemidji with an extra attacker on the ice and 31 seconds left. And then the Beavers win it in overtime on a Haley Armstrong goal. That's one of those. Love to see the win percentage charts on that game where you're probably 90-some% going to the
Fell
third,
off
and
a
then
cliff.
falls off a cliff and then comes back to right in the end of regulation and then back to the top again for Bemidji.
Yeah.
That's a weird way to end a series there.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to Bemidji because giving up 4 in a row, and like I want to say it was 4 in like 8 or 9 minutes. Well, even most of the third period, it was a really short stretch. Bemidji gives up those 4 to go down in a game that they'd been leading the whole time, and the fact that didn't count them out, right? Like that they got that last minute goal, that they won in overtime, like that says a lot about what the team's character, and just those are the sorts of things that you got to dig deep for. And like when it comes to February and March, like that's what you can remember, like what you're capable of and what you've done in the past. I feel like the sort of confidence that builds and the sort of memory bank that you build on wins like that is what can be the most important part, that when you're in a tough situation later, you could be like, but we've already done this, we're good. So yeah, that game was bonkers. Just that third period was like, wait, what is happening here?
Let's hope we have more of those kind of games as we get toward the second half of the season. When it's going to be a fight for some spots in the standings, and if you have games like that, that's going to make it even more entertaining. Yeah. Let's turn toward the ECAC now, where we had a series where we've talked in the last few weeks about Quinnipiac doing really well, but last week they fell off a little bit. Got swept by Princeton, 4-3 in overtime on Thursday, and then 2-0 on Saturday. Cornell with 40 saves in the Saturday game. Izzy Wonder, Riley Sorokin with the goals. What should we be looking at there? I mean, Princeton is a team that's done fairly well for themselves at points so far this season. Quinnipiac, we thought was on a pretty good roll, and then has hit a few bumps lately.
Well, first of all, if you haven't seen the overtime game winner from Thursday, please do yourself a favor and go find it. Princeton shared it, the ECAC has shared it, but Izzy Wonder falls, gets tripped, however you want to say it. It's not a great camera angle, so I will not say we know for sure what happens. But she's racing up the ice. She ends up, on her butt on the ice, and then on her side as she's sliding, and she still makes a perfect pass across the ice to hit the tape of, is it Mackenzie Alexander, who scores the game winner. Just an absolutely beautiful play that controlled the way that Izzy didn't give up when, things went a little sideways, or I guess quite literally sideways. I wasn't trying to make a pun. But yeah, just a beautiful goal. I mean, Princeton's a team that hasn't been super consistent, and that's why it's hard. They do stuff like this, and you're like, okay, I've bought in, and then it doesn't go so well, and so you're like, but they're 9-4, but they needed overtime to beat RPI. They lost in overtime to Yale. It's like I'm never quite sure. They've got one wins over Clarkson, but then lost the next day to St. Lawrence, and so it's like I don't know. They're winning against teams that probably should be beating them, and they're losing against teams they should probably be beating at times, and so it's hard to really get a grasp on what this team is going to do week in and week out. I think that was a really impressive weekend. I think we record on Tuesdays, they beat Yale in overtime again today. They're putting together a good stretch, and so maybe it just was a bit of that Ivy League starts a little later, need to figure out themselves, the losing Sarah Paul, and sort of figuring out who it is they are this season, and things will be a little smoother from here on out. But they're not a team I'd overlook, but it's hard right now to believe or feel secure in being yes, they are solid, they are going to win these games, because I just maybe I don't feel that way about anybody anymore. But it was there's enough questions there that I'm not bought in fully yet.
One of the things that stood out for me, Princeton was able to hold Kaylin LaMarche off the score sheet last weekend in back-to-back games. She's now without a point in her last 3 games, which matches the number of games she didn't have a point in over her first 17. So it's been a really remarkable start to the season for her, and everyone has their ups and downs and has their moments where it's just not happening the way it was earlier. And we may have just found one of those little moments here for Quinnipiac and for LaMarche. So I imagine that turns around again at some point because we've seen how good she is.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't feel like by any means this says something super profound about Quinnipiac. I still think they're a very good team. I still think we're going to continue to see them do those things. And I mean, her pace was primed to get a little regression, right? Like that's going to happen. And unfortunately too, like the longer she doesn't score, the more it'll probably get in her head. Like it can get really difficult, I think, when you got all that attention to start and then you feel the pressure to keep performing. But I imagine that we have yet to see the end of what she's capable of this season. But yeah, it's again, I think it's coming. We're heading into the winter break when the students will be student athletes will be a little more students than athlete for a little bit, and I think it comes at a good time for a lot of schools, a lot of programs that just sort of need that little reset, like where things have been going really well, and now there's some stumbles and there's time needed for a reset. And I didn't actually mean to set myself up for that, but that probably can take us to Cornell, huh?
It can take us to Cornell because Cornell fell to Union 4-3 in overtime on Friday. Maddie Alini scoring her third goal of the game in overtime. Union took the lead 3 times, and then Cornell came back each time to equalize before Union finally got the winner in overtime. Then Cornell on Tuesday had kind of a head-scratching 2-2 tie with Syracuse at Syracuse. Stella Costabile, I apologize if I am mispronouncing that, with the tying goal for the Orange, 4:48 remaining there.
And Syracuse took the shutout. Or the shootout, why did I say shutout? The shootout. Syracuse took the shootout win as well. They held Cornell completely off the board in the shootout, which is also surprising, but way to go Syracuse. Yeah. But yes, head scratcher is probably the nicest way to put. I don't know. I have no idea. It's very strange. But Cornell, after their great start, is, what did we say, 2-1 in their last 5?
That sounds right. So yeah, it's there's like I just said, with players, with teams, they hit ruts in the ice sometimes, and it's not easy to recover from that. It takes a little while, but this is also a Tuesday evening before Thanksgiving game. That
for sure.
You always wonder how those turn out after you've just played on the weekend. It's a busy time of the year for school, like you said. I never know how much to put into Tuesday night results Thanksgiving week.
For sure. I think even still, it's probably, I feel like even with that asterisk, that's a game we expect Cornell to win. Right. Yeah, I will say a couple interesting tidbits that came out of this week, particularly from Cornell and Union, is Cornell went more than 200 minutes without scoring at even strength. They played more than 3. It was like 3 weeks and 3+ games between even strength goals. So they had 7 power play goals and 2 shorthanded goals in that stretch. But I did not realize how much they were riding their special teams, and I think that's probably something they'll be looking at. It did not look from a quick box score that on Tuesday, that game, that the tie with Syracuse, that they had scored on special teams, and so again, something to look at. But just that's a crazy long time for the number 4 team in the country to go between even strength goals.
Yep. Couple other results to mention from ECAC before we move on. Number 11 Clarkson beating number 12 Brown 4-2 on Friday behind a goal and an assist from Janelle Evans. And number 11 Clarkson again getting a 3-2 win over number 14 Yale on Saturday. Laura Beecher go-ahead goal with 12:18 left. Holly Gruber making 36 saves in that game. So Clarkson getting a little bounce back in the positive direction, the way that they I'm sure we're hoping to see things go after the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, what I'm taking from this is we're talking about all the top teams in the ECAC having sort of maybe bubbles or ups and downs, which just means that conference is so wide open. What that says to me is we're going to have a lot of fun in the final few months of the season to see how that sort of all shakes out.
Yep, everyone's got 8 conference games played. Cornell has 18 points, Clarkson 17.5, Princeton 16. Colgate 14.5, Quinnipiac 13.5, St. Lawrence 13. It's pretty. I mean, okay, so that's the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams separated by 5.5 points. So, or 7 teams, I guess. So let's, we're gonna have some fun following that through the second half of the season. NEWHA, we teased this last week, an important series last weekend, and there, St. Anselm with a sweep of Assumption to extend its lead atop the conference. 4-3 in overtime on Friday, 2-1 on Saturday. Brooklyn Schneiderhan with the overtime goal, her second goal of the game in the Friday game after Assumption raced a 3-1 deficit in the third. St. Anselm getting the win there. And then again on Saturday with a Grace Sterling go-ahead goal with just over 2 minutes left. We're starting to see that, I think, just like we've kind of had Atlantic Hockey in the Penn State category, I think we're putting NEWHA in the St. Anselm category now, 10 points ahead of Franklin Pearson, 12 up on Assumption.
Yeah, I still seems crazy to talk about that before we've even hit December 1st, but
right.
I feel like that was a statement weekend from St. Anselm. I think Assumption played really well and put up a really good fight, and I think they're only going to continue to get better. I need to remind people that is a pretty new program, but yeah, I felt like that essential weekend sweep from St. Anselm was I'm putting it firmly in their category until somebody proves to me that we should be thinking something else, right?
Absolutely. Speaking of Penn State, they had a good challenge from RIT last weekend, but Penn State extended its unbeaten run, haven't lost yet this season, haven't tied yet this season, with a 5-3 win on Friday, a 4-3 win on Saturday. That second game, Danica Maynard with the go-ahead goal halfway through the third period to put the Nittany Lions ahead. Tessa Janicki, 2 goals and 3 assists in the series. So Penn State's way up, and I'm just trying to pull up the page here to see how far up. Yeah, they're 8. They have 36 points. The next closest has 18, and so they've also played 2 more games, but I don't know that that's going to matter in the end. This is a classic race for second place in Atlantic Hockey. Over in Hockey East, a couple results to mention from last week involving the 2 ranked teams there. Northeastern, number 8 Northeastern getting a sweep at Maine 3-1 and 2-1. Number 9 UConn getting a home sweep of Vermont 4-0 and 6-3. They remain 1-2 in Hockey East by points percentage, even though Boston College has played a few more games and has stayed there, I believe, in second place. And Holy Cross is also up there with a few more games played. UConn has some games to make up, and so we'll see how that goes. But Northeastern still 9-0, unbeaten in conference play, and that's we're going to talk about this in our next segment. But we're talking about Northeastern, we're talking about Penn State, pretty close to each other. They've got a big one coming up. But I guess anything to take away from what we saw in Hockey East over the weekend first?
No, I think we've been talking about Northeastern and how they haven't been where they've been, and I think we're starting to see them get back there. We're probably not talking enough about Lily Shannon in terms of the scoring, not quite yet at the numbers of some of the hot starts are going to be a little hard to catch, but she's really leading that team and just made them unbeatable at this point. They've come from behind. They just kind of aren't out of any game right now in Hockey East, and I think they just have so much experience, even if it's newer players. They just have so much experience being at the top, being able to hold that position, and I think that's a hard habit to break from both directions, right? For them, but also for the teams used to chasing them.
All right, we will duck out for a minute. When we come back, we'll talk about what's coming up, including some tournament play this weekend. Stay with us on the podcast. Welcome back to the podcast. Todd and Nicole here with you to look ahead to what's coming up this weekend, the post-Thanksgiving games this week. Let's start with a few of the tournaments. D1 and DC being played in around our nation's capital. I don't know if it's actually in DC. I think it's somewhere in Virginia. But either way, number 12 Colgate versus number 14 St. Cloud State, and number 10 Clarkson versus number 2 Ohio State are the Friday games. The winners and the losers play on Saturday. No, I take that back. Clarkson and St. Cloud play, and Colgate and Ohio State play on Saturday. So the conference teams do not face each other. That is not a bracketed tournament. It is a set schedule. There are other ones that are bracketed, but not this one. That looks like, just from first blush, that's a pretty good field for an event.
For
this weekend.
ranked teams. I mean, we love getting to see teams from different conferences play each other. It really not just helps understand where they stand, but like sort of make some more comparisons. When you see how St. Cloud plays against Colgate, then you can see how Colgate plays against other teams in their conference and infer some things. But also just for ranked teams, like how fun that we would not normally get a chance to see. And I think everybody has a little bit of something to prove there, right? Like there's a rivalry a bit between the conferences. ECAC has really leveled up in the past few seasons. And so I think, there's a lot there. St. Cloud wants to prove that even with their record, they deserve the ranking that they have, right? So I think while some of these tournaments might be a little more casual, I feel like this one's going to be pretty hardcore. I don't think any of those 4 teams is looking to take the weekend off.
All right. The Nutmeg Classic is being played at UConn with the teams from Connecticut. Number 8 UConn versus number 9 Quinnipiac on Friday, and Yale plays Sacred Heart. This is one where the winners do play on Saturday with the third place game as well. The UConn Quinnipiac game is one that has attracted my attention.
Yeah, absolutely. That should be super interesting. I think they play pretty different styles as well. So, similar to what we said about D1 and DC is that like you just get to infer quite a bit. But Quinnipiac, I think after last weekend is has some stuff to prove, and UConn being ranked above them. And I think we're getting some really maybe unintentionally or luckily interesting setups. These are all sort of played in advance. Nutmeg is every year they do this, and I think this is. We're really lucky to see some of these matchups this year.
Yep. The Smashville Showcase happens in Nashville Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's only 3 teams, so you get a day off for one of the teams in the middle. So Stonehill plays Mercyhurst Friday, then has a day off. Mercyhurst plays Wisconsin on Saturday, and then Wisconsin plays Stonehill on Sunday. Interesting setup there for how you can run that, but it's part of a larger girls hockey showcase event. You've got a lot of teams coming in, so there should be a pretty, I would imagine teams that aren't playing be able to go and see that. It's a nice event to get girls and women's hockey into an area where there's NHL hockey, and then you hope that encourages more girls hockey development in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually went maybe to the first one of these when Wisconsin played in it a few years ago. I have family in Memphis, so I went to Thanksgiving in Memphis and then drove over to Nashville the next day. Shout out to anybody that's going. Make sure you go to the correct Ford Ice Center. There are 2 of them.
Right.
Lessons learned, but it is cool because it is in the middle of this youth girls tournament, and so just the energy is amazing. You're talking about sort of that old thing that we talked about. If they can see it, they can be it. And in that area where there is not college hockey, that's showing off what is possible. And I think it's good to see. I think probably from a standpoint of the levels of each of these squads, it's maybe a little unfair, but I think when you think of it in terms of who the girls can see, the players that are there can see, it's good to see sort of the different levels of schools and sort of different options of what's available out there as a D1 program. And I think everybody grows up, if you're thinking about going D1 and you think of certain schools like Wisconsin and Minnesota and Colgate and all those sorts of schools, but they need to know that Stonehill and Mercyhurst are out there too.
Absolutely. The Mayor's Cup happens Saturday, Providence at Brown. That's always a good one to pay attention to. The intercity matchup, I guess, of intra-city. I always forget that. Which way is right? I don't know. They're from the same city. They play a game on Saturday. It should be exciting. But the big one for me, number 4 Penn State at number 7 Northeastern, Friday and Saturday afternoons. The Friday game, I believe it's 3:30 start. That one is on Nesson if you have that available to you, or it will also be on ESPN Plus. I assume if it's part of the the Hockey's package. This is one of those, okay, we've seen Penn State roll up big numbers against Atlantic hockey teams. We've seen them take care of what they've done in non-conference games so far. Here's a road trip to a Northeastern team that has really done some pretty good things lately.
Yeah, I think it's a really big test for both of those teams, right? And both of them are sort of eager to prove that they're legit. So that makes it fun all on its own. But just the matchup too, like I was saying, I think Lily Shannon's been an underrated offensive threat. You know, Penn State's got Tessa Janicki, but also many more threats that are out there scoring. It's not been the Tessa show, and so I think both teams' depth will be tested. I think Northeastern's at home, which is nice for them, less just that comfort level, and they really love playing in front of their crowd at Matthews. The Nesson of it too. I think it's just going to be a lot of fun. I have no idea what the outcome's going to be. I could talk myself in circles for either team, I think, and make a really good case. But yeah, this is one of those ones where I think both teams really need to prove that they are legit against a nationally ranked contending team, and so I think that's what's going to make sort of the pressure of that will make this extra fun to watch.
Absolutely. Will be fun to watch that one. You can check out the full schedule on USCHO.com. But the game of the week really is Nicole Haase versus Jeopardy, because this is the week that Nicole makes her appearance on the television. It is on Thursday, which means it probably has a decent chance of not being on when it's supposed to be on in your area. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Nicole, and about a little bit more about just your experience? You've been posting on social media a lot of the pictures, kind of the behind the scenes things, and it's been really pretty fascinating.
Yeah, because of football in most places, the Jeopardy airing will be preempted. A very nice man over on Blue Sky, who is apparently a Jeopardy superfan, has created a Google spreadsheet that lets you know when that game will be replayed or if it won't be replayed. So we'll link to that on the USCHO story about that has the links for PodKaz in it. Otherwise, the show will be on both Peacock and Hulu the next day. So you should be able to watch it somewhere. In Milwaukee, it will be on at 12:30 on Friday morning. At least in Milwaukee, it's getting preempted for football. In Madison by you, I thought it was going to be on because it's not on a football channel. Oh, they're replaying the Macy's parade instead. So I'm getting, I mean, nothing says humble like the replay of a morning parade preempting you.
Yeah, well, I'll actually be in Milwaukee anyway for the Milwaukee area for Thanksgiving, so I would have missed that anyway. But I know it's on Peacock.
In Madison, so there you go. Yes, it'll be on both Peacock and Hulu. I double checked everything. The episode number is 9444, which is the important part when you're checking because several places also just show Jeopardy reruns. Like in Milwaukee, CBS 58 normally shows a Jeopardy rerun in the middle of the morning, and so you want to make sure if you're trying to record that's the episode number, and also that you should extend it if you're on a station that was showing football because they will not keep a regular schedule that day. So you should just do it for a long time. Otherwise, just watch it on the stream the next day. I'm pretty sure they're on for only a limited time. Don't plan to watch in 2 weeks. I don't know that it will be on either Hulu or Peacock anymore. I think Hulu is 5 days. So that's all that logistic stuff. But yeah, it's been fun. They record 5 episodes a day, and so the episodes that are airing this week are the ones that I was sitting in the green room for, that the pool of contestants for that day. I was in the green room with all of these people, and so each of these episodes was possible I could have been on, but my name wasn't pulled. So some of it's just fun to share, the things we were talking about in the green room, or when things were challenged, what we saw, or there was spoiler alert, there was a category today on Tuesday about odd museums in Wisconsin. We have a mustard museum, and I knew that was going to end up being one of the categories, one of the questions in the category. I think it was the last one they ended up picking. When I was like, oh, the mustard museum will be in there. When it did come up, everybody kind of turned and looked at me. So that was funny. But yeah, I've just been trying to, it's a fascinating process how this has all gone. And when I found out I was going to be on and I Googled various things trying to find what people have written about it. Most everybody's written about Jeopardy and their experiences from pre-COVID, and things are just very different. So just been trying to share a little bit about what that looks like, and like things like you used to have to go do an in-person test as the third round, and that doesn't happen, or there used to be like shuttle buses from the hotel, and that didn't happen, and they give you like instructions on how to get there if you're driving, but like if you're Ubering, they tell you to go to the gas station across the street, because like the Uber can't go into Sony Pictures. So just very silly little like logistical things like that are funny to me. But yeah, just been trying to share a little bit, and I recorded on October 21st, so I've for a month I've been thinking about all the little stuff and just trying to share some of the details. It was all a bit of a whirlwind, and some of the stuff I don't remember till I'm watching the episode, and I'm like, oh wait, I remember now what happened here. So yeah, it's fun for me too. So I've been doing that on both X and Blue Sky, trying to share some of that stuff if people want to follow along. Yeah, I don't know if anyone's got specific questions. I can't answer things about my episode till after my episode airs.
That's what I was going to say. We'll talk next week about the actual episode, right?
But yeah, the details wise, it was. I never imagined I would do this. I applied on a whim. That probably makes some people hate me, because several people, people all over the world are trying to get onto Jeopardy. The producers tell you, like Amy Schneider, who's the super champion and like a tournament of champions champion, she tried 7 different times. She was in the player pool and didn't get picked. And I did this all in 3 months. That's abnormal. I'm really lucky in some ways for that. In other ways, I'm kind of wish it didn't all happen so fast. And like it was all happening at the start of hockey season. You may have noticed there were several late posts and things like that, because it was just, there was a lot going on at one point, but wouldn't change it for anything. I'm glad that I got to do it, and I'm really lucky. But I also in my sassier moments, I'm doing the Elle Woods, like it's hard from Legally Blonde and getting into Harvard Law, just because I don't know what else to say. Everybody's like, oh my goodness. And I'm loving this, and it was awesome, and I'm happy to share it. And also it's a lot of attention on me, and I really appreciate it. And also I'm very awkward about it. So if I'm awkward about it, I apologize. It's not personal. It's just weird. I like being on the other side of the interviewing, not having to be front and center.
Totally. That's why I'm in this line of business. I don't want anything to do with being asked questions. I don't want to be asking them. Yeah.
I don't love seeing myself you and I are on a Zoom as we do this. I don't love seeing myself here, much less on national television. So yeah.
Well, take a walk if you have to while it's on, and come back, and then, then say hi to everyone and ask how it went.
Yeah, the good part about
How'd you do?
I do not have to watch it with my husband's whole family on Thanksgiving. Now, that was the part I was dreading. So I'm very happy for everybody else to watch it. I just don't want to be there while you do.
Sure, that's fair. All right. Well, we hope you can make that a part of your Thanksgiving out there. We hope you have a great holiday, and you enjoy the hockey that is coming after it. So that's going to wrap it up for this weekend. For Nicole, I'm Todd. We'll talk to you next week on the podcast.